Hey there. So, remember last week when I talked about that Shabbat community dinner that I went to, where everyone who spoke said things that went straight to my heart and helped me to not feel so alone? Well, I want to introduce you to Shannon. In the past year, she had sold her house, left her marriage of 8 years, resigned from her career as a trauma nurse, and has spent the past year sort of stepping into the void. And at the same time, some of her closest people or family were questioning whether she needed an intervention. She has discovered that she is on the path to being happier and healthier than she's ever been. So let me introduce you to Shannon. She is gorgeous and lovely, and I know that you're going to love her too. I was really leaning into your personal journey because I feel like it's all around me. Like all of these amazing, empowered, grounded women are leaping off cliffs
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and like leaning into their faith. And I would love if you wouldn't mind just like sharing a little bit about what your journey has been.
Yeah, of course. So about a year ago, I kind of took this big leap of faith and, I've been a nurse, a little context, I've been a nurse in trauma for about 10 years. I was with a partner in a marriage for 8 years and then we had a house together. And, I had all of these things that on the outside looked, successful, all these everything that you could really want, that society tells you, that culture tells you, and all of that in order to be successful, and happy, but I had never been more miserable. And I know that even when I went to buy the house, that I didn't want to buy the house. I've been on a spiritual journey for about 10 years, and this new cycle in the past year has been like almost the same lessons coming up again, but like on a deeper level, on an rather than an intellectual level that they were in the past of like understanding them. This is more about internal knowing and an inner knowing and an embodiment of them. Anyways, so I knew that I didn't want to buy a house. I actually, one of my reasons for existing is to remind people that it's okay to break the rules. It's okay to step outside their comfort zone. You don't have to do it. Like, you don't have to fit in the box. Like, wake up. Like, we only get one chance at this life. Like, live fully now, be here now, like, create the life of your dreams. And I never wanted a house. I never wanted to be married. I never wanted kids. I never wanted any of this ordinary stuff. I allowed myself to get to this place because I really was trying to appease my parents. I was in this space of like, I didn't love myself enough. So I was continually seeking external validation from my family, from my friends, from my relationship. And for so long ignoring my intuition, my truth. And it was just like this nastiness coming out of me. For so long, I dealt with physical health issues, mental health issues, insomnia, panic attacks, multiple hospitalizations, because it was all of these emotions that were not processed, right? And I was storing them in my body and just shoving them down and shoving them down and shoving them down and almost like disassociated from my body. And I believe that the reason for that, so disassociated from my body, so disassociated from my breath, was like I was just this little soul floating above my body. And part of the reason for that is because of, being a trauma nurse and being in this fight or flight nervous system response for so long. And then a lot of personal trauma that I've experienced in my life as well that led me to this feeling of like always being on high alert, never safe. And yeah, so basically I went through this journey of listening to my intuition finally, and jumping into this unknown. I was struggling so immensely and my physical body was failing. My mental health was terrible and I could feel like my spark, my light, my soul shining but like the candle was going out. And I know that that's like my magic and I've been very connected with that. And when I felt that and knew that to be true, I was like, "Oh God, we got to start this fight. We got to move. We got to get out of here. This is danger zone, warning, warning, run, run, get out of here, you know? And I
You
felt like I was just doggy pedaling and barely surviving and barely having enough air to breathe, you know?
I have a specific moment where I knew that I had been completely disconnected from my body, and it was this moment. I had been working in New York City, and I was standing in my kitchen, and I was standing in tree pose, and I looked down, and where my foot was touching my knee from my knee down was covered in blood.
Wow.
And I was like, "What the" and I looked at the bottom of my foot, and I had a giant cut in the bottom of my foot, and I had no idea how I had done it. And I was
Mm,
like, "Girl, you are in trouble."
yeah.
Like, did you have a specific moment where you were like, "You were in trouble"?
I mean, I did have that moment, multiple moments like that, and that's what a lot of these hospitalizations were because I couldn't breathe and felt like I was having a heart attack and dying, you know? And I didn't have the context to put that word on it, you know, and being a nurse and knowing too much about the physical body and feeling the heart palpitations and the irregular heartbeat, I'm like, "Oh god, I'm having a heart attack," you know? I had the awareness that like when I had this panic attack on an airplane, I normally wouldn't be somebody who would ask for help, but and I was sitting in this airplane next to the window and out of nowhere, you know, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, I'm dying. Like I'm gonna die alone in this airplane. Like I'm done," you know, and my mom's a flight attendant and so in my head I was like fainting and all sorts of stuff and I got the courage to stand up, right, and be like, I need to at least see if I can stand up or go to the bathroom and I just something in me said, you know, you at least have to talk to the flight attendant. And so after that, it was like, oh my God, like this is something is wrong. Like you're in for trouble. And like we need to fight for you know, fight for your soul, fight and get out of this because you're so out of alignment. You're not living your truth and you don't even know how to process emotions or feelings and that's kind of that feeling of being disassociated, right? As like not knowing how to express these emotions or how to name them or how to really process them and you know being so easily triggered and all this stuff just like very you know primal instinctual survival pathways that were continuously being triggered and so yeah I decided that I was going to quit my nursing job and that I was going to sell my house and break up with my partner and you know I
You little things. Just a tiny little life change.
Yeah, so I didn't know what was wrong, you know? I didn't know. All I knew is that this is not working and I have to fight for whatever. And I've always had this about 10 years ago when I went to Peru for the first time. I remember being introduced to ayahuasca and plant medicine and that sort of realm and I was very intrigued and interested in it, but I knew at that point in my life I wasn't ready, like, I was too in control, and I wasn't ready to surrender, and it was very scary to me, and so my intuition kinda told me through this journey, like, before I quit everything, like, "You need to go sit with this medicine. You need to go to Peru," and so for the first time ever, I, you know, listened to my gut and I've had that connection like I spoke to, you know, but I just was ignoring it and not honoring it until it became a scream and a full on like fire breathing dragon, you know. So it was not pretty. It was really messy. But you know, I decided to take this leap of faith and it was the most terrifying thing ever. It felt like being a baby again, you know, naked, alone, afraid, and not having the support of my family or anyone. You know, I was back to like being alone and brought up a lot of childhood wounds and traumas about, you know, my dad abandoning me and just being alone and needing to do it all alone and not being approved and not being loved and all of that. And because they met me with a lot of resistance and thought I was insane, and they were like, "Do you need an intervention or something?" You know? And I was like, You know, you gotta just stay over here because I'm already terrified, and your limiting beliefs and fear projections are really messing with me right now, so I'm gonna just cut this off." And I wrote all these letters to my family and, to my boss. And it was very intentional. It wasn't like you know, it was very thought out plan, right? It wasn't impulsive, which I have tendency to do things like that. But I made sure that it was what I wanted to do. I listened to my gut and I listened to my heart and I, made these clear, conscious decisions and really wanted to go into this space with a clear heart and clear my conscience of any, harm I may have caused anyone else. I wrote a letter to my partner of the time, to my mom, to my dad, to everyone, kind of taking accountability for, myself and my actions and how I wasn't showing up in my highest self. And then also telling them, claiming that this is who I am. And I hope you can still love me despite your disagreements with my choices. But if you can't, then that's okay too, because I have to do me and I'm no longer going to do things your way because we tried your way and it didn't work. And we're not doing that again.
Oh, it's so brave. It's so brave and it's so real, right? Like that it
hmm
takes so much to be able to separate yourself from what it is that everyone in your life wants for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so ingrained in our culture, in our society and family and everything. Like, it's such a deep wound. And one of the things that I kind of have been noticing lately is the pattern of being liked in general, And I think a lot of people are held back by what they do and how they share their voice. And I know I have been for sure because I'm so worried about what other people are going to think, what other people are people going to like me? And what I realized, first of all, is that this too is a deep ancestral pattern of survival. Like our survival part of our brain, like back 2000 years ago when we lived in these tribes and these communities, it was very important for our neighbors to like us, right? We had to, if they didn't like us, we didn't get water, we didn't get food, we didn't get shelter. And those were the basic needs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs to survive. So it's
Right.
this deep wound that like we carry. And now it's like, oh, if I share my voice on social media, I'm not going to survive. It's this like unconscious belief. And it's like, no, actually, what's the worst that's going to happen? Someone won't like you, or somebody won't agree with you or resonate with you, or you're going to be judged. But the reality is yeah, it's not. We think about so much these things as like they're a threat to our survival, but they're really not.
I so relate to this. Is exactly the journey that I've been on in doing this podcast. It's like there's like a part of me that is so being like, what are you doing? Why are you putting yourself out there? Or why are you you're you are putting out there who you really are without concern, and it's
Yeah.
scary. You're
Yeah.
scaring me.
hmm
And
Yeah.
but then ultimately, right, I feel like you probably feel the same way. There's like a part of your soul that is like, this is your path.
Mhm.
You just have to keep being brave and keep moving forward.
Yeah. And what I realized, like for me, one of my biggest struggles has been always been my throat chakra. And, that blockage of like speaking my truth. And it's all kind of tied up into what we've already kind of spoke to. um, Being liked and not being enough or being too much, whatever it is. Like I've been met with both sides of the spectrum. I'm too much in who I am in my fullest expression. I'm not enough for who I am in my fullest expression. They've both been polar opposites, but like different people feel different ways about me. And I've had to dim my light and dim to fit in and make other people comfortable, which ultimately led to me not sharing at all because, I don't want to talk about surface level stuff. I don't care, and if you don't if it's too much for you, I've just kind of learned subconsciously that it wasn't safe and like I shouldn't share or people wouldn't listen or weren't listening.
Yeah, I've always been that way. And there was a moment for me where I realized that I was really bad at it. Like I tried to fit in, I tried to fit in, I would try to fit in. And then I was like, you're actually really bad. It's kind of embarrassing. Like you're really no one's buying it, and you just
Yeah.
come across as like kind of awkward. like
Yeah.
like how about we just not? And that was sort of the one of the moments that was more freeing for me is that I'm just going to not try to fit in I'm just not going to try anymore. I'm just going to be
Yeah,
me and
right.
see where the chips fall.
It's so liberating when we can decide that, you know? And it's like, it's funny to think about because when you think about people liking you, it's you don't like everyone, right? So
Right.
why do we expect everyone to like us or even want everyone to like us, you know? Not nobody likes everybody and that would be terrible. Like that's boring. We don't, you know, there's going to be polarity, there's going to be opposition, there's going to be people that resonate and people that don't, and that's okay. And there's going to be certain things we say that people resonate with, and that's okay too. And something people that are triggered and all of that. But it's really just like a reclamation of power. And if we don't share our voices, we're actually doing the entire world a disservice because we are the only ones that carry our unique gifts, our unique medicine, our unique vibration of energy that comes through our voice and gives our being character. And we if we don't share our messages, if we don't share our truth, our wisdom, our experiences, the whole world will not benefit from our magic and our unique medicine because nobody else can do it except me and except you in this incarnation in this body with this soul, you know. And it's so important, and that's kind of what's been my fuel and my fire is not about me. It's about sharing with the world and not doing the world a disservice, right? Because there are unique life experiences and gifts and different things that only I have experienced through my lens of perception and that only I can share. So I want to share that.
Yeah, that you saying that makes me feel so good. Like
Mm,
like just you sharing that piece of it makes me feel so good. Like it makes me
okay.
feel a little bit more safe and a little
Mm,
bit more sane. And
yeah,
yeah, so thank you for that. I'm
of
curious
course.
what yeah. I'm curious whether you've thought about if you could guide yourself earlier in your process. Is there anything that you would have been able to say to, I guess,
A lot of things.
yeah, like what?
I mean, I think a lot of my, work has been like healing the inner child, right? Or healing the little girl from back then. And I would have, just nurtured myself and hugged myself and told myself that I'm doing great and told myself that I'm enough and told myself that I'm loved and told myself that I'm safe and that everything's going to work out just as it's supposed to, and to not be so hard on yourself and to give yourself the love and compassion that you so effortlessly give to others. Because I spent so many years of like just self sabotage and lack of self love and lack of self confidence and just really hard on myself. Like I was trying so hard to be something to fit in, to like trying, just swimming upstream, like in the wrong direction and wondering why this wasn't working, you know? There's just this very masculine energy of like trying and trying and trying to be enough, to be enough. And that's like, oh, let's step back and just surrender and be in grace and meet yourself where you are and love yourself for exactly as you are. Because the truth is like, even if we don't do anything with our lives, being just as we are in this human body with this soul is a fucking miracle. And it is so enough. Just that. Like we don't have to do anything else. Like it's miraculous, you know? We don't have to like try to get this career or try to do this or try to do that and all get lost in all these things of our mind and of society. We are enough just as we are. Just as we are. And if I would have known that and felt that in my being, I don't think I would have, I think I wouldn't have felt so alone and so lost. But again, I don't have any regrets. I wouldn't change any of it, because if I hadn't gone through the things the way I went through it, it wouldn't have alchemized into this light. It wouldn't have allowed me to show up today like this. So I'm super grateful for the struggles and the pain and the heartache and the darkness and all of that, and all those difficult lessons because without them, I wouldn't have this wisdom from the other side of it.
I love that perspective so much, and it's been very healing for me because part of my process was like, well, why did these things happen? And then being able to to transmute that and to look at it and
Mhm.
say, look at all the superpowers that I have
Mhm.
because I went through that. I went through that and I built these muscles and I
Mhm.
have these superpowers now. And now I get to gift them. Now I
Mhm.
get to.
I love
And
that you said that because I feel the same way, and I've reframed so many of them as superpowers. One of them is I've struggled with, like, ADHD when I was a kid, and, the reframe on that is attention to higher dimensions.
yes.
And, it's like, instead of, like, seeing it as something like a challenge, like, it's actually a superpower because I have such keen ability to see every detail, to hear every noise, to, like I pick up on everything. Like, the way that I see the world and the way that I hear the world and the way that I feel the world is super intense and super beautiful and super rich and all the things which can be super overwhelming sometimes, but also extraordinarily beautiful. And I think most people don't see and feel and hear as deeply and with so much that I do. And, same thing with like the trauma of like, there's so many, but like another one would be, for example, like being abandoned by my dad and developing this muscle of like being alone and being independent, right? And that's like, I, that is a superpower of like, I've been traveling alone since I was 5 years old, and I can do anything and everything like by myself. However, you know, it's also like this new lesson of like leaning into grace and leaning into softness and being the way of the peaceful warrior and allowing people to help me, allowing people in to my circle and not having that guard up like I have to do it all myself sort of thing, which I carried for so long as well.
That is so same, same, same. Like everything that you're saying, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Like I looked at it like my independence is what, like, I'm an adventurous soul because
Mhm.
I have that. I know that I can do it myself. I'm not afraid to
Mhm.
do or go or be or do anything because I know that I can do it. And so it gives me the freedom to explore the world by myself if I choose
Yeah.
that. And I love that part about me. But I'm wondering with you, the piece of it that I know that I need to work on is community
Mhm.
and asking for help.
Yeah, asking for help is I think most human beings struggle with this. It's like we're so good at giving help, but it's so much harder to ask for it. And I think when you ask for help, like the worry is that you won't be met, you won't be liked, or you will be disappointed or rejected and they might say no, and we have this really deep-seated fear of rejection. And I think that that's why most people don't, ask for help. And we're in this like society where we want to make everything pretend like we're all good all the time. And it's like, no, there's so much power in vulnerability and in authenticity and in saying like, I'm not doing good today, and like that's just real and that's how I am. And, you know, offering, sitting in community and telling people this because if we look out in the world and we see this projection a lot of times, which is what we see on social media, that everyone's thriving and doing great and happy, it's like, well, I'm messed up then because I'm not happy today and I'm a mess and my life's falling apart and I'm crying on my knees on the floor. And it's like when we can feel that humanness from each other and know that we're not always happy. We're not it's not always a great day and that's okay. And to like
That's
see
right.
that and to understand that and to know that we're not alone and that other people have their own struggles. And I think that it also gives us this beautiful lens of compassion for others when you can sit in community like this and really understand that, like, all of us have our own individual struggles and demons and darkness and whatever you want to call it, challenges that we're encountering each day at this season of our life. But when we know that we're not in it alone and that other people are also feeling that, we can feel better like about ourselves, but also give them the compassion and be like, "Oh wow, like let's be nice to everyone because they're fighting their own battle too." You know?
Yeah, I mean that's so real. I was actually having this I was going through it and I this was what was so interesting. This is a lesson that I've just learned about how the universe can show up for you in different ways once you choose differently.
Mhm.
And so I was having this, like, I was just heartbreaking. And I was just going to go it alone like I do. And then I
Mhm.
thought about, this is your opportunity to do it differently. And so I called a friend
Mhm.
and she held space for me while I just was expressing my sadness. And
Mm.
the amazing part about it is that after I got off that call with her, my phone for the rest of the day just lit up with random people, not random people,
Mm.
friends texting me.
Mm.
Some friends who I hadn't heard for years and just texting me and saying, I'm thinking about you. I love you. And I'm like, how is this
Wow.
right? Like, and
Yeah.
I was like, that's like such a confirmation to me that,
Mm.
that
Just got
the
chills.
right? Like, I'm like, I
Yeah.
did something different. I decided to ask for help, and then the universe showed me that's there for me.
Yeah. And those are like the little breadcrumbs, right? Those are the synchronicities. Those are the magic that we if that's appearing in your life, those synchronicities, we know we're on the right track. And I love that. And I've experienced so much of that since I made all of these, life-changing decisions. It's been magic, 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 synchronicity. Like, oh my gosh. And it's like this big snowball, right? That started small and then it just keeps getting bigger. And as it rolls down the hill, and it's like to the point now where I'm just like, oh my God. I don't know. It doesn't
Right?
surprise me anymore. It still does, but like it shouldn't. But
Yeah,
it
it's you know
there's
what it is I love it. Like I send rockets of gratitude every time it happens. I'm like, I see you. I see you
mm,
showing me that magic. I see you supporting me, and I'm so grateful for it.
amazing. Yeah. I love that so much.
I'm reflecting on your journey because it's really only been a year and it seems like you've jumped like 10 lifetimes, dimension,
Yes.
timeline.
Yeah.
Like, so it was like, do you feel that way?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I mean, I feel like a complete yeah, like I am rebirthed in this incarnation.
well, so do you, what does your life look like now and where are you going?
That's a good question. Right now, every day is a continual surrender, right? It's because I'm a human and I, of course, have patterns and tendencies and things that I can go back to easily, right? Or choose the awareness of like creating and cultivating new neural pathways. So it's this constant surrender where I'm trying to relinquish my control of like what my future is supposed to look like, right? And just allow and trust and have faith that whatever is meant for me, and my mantra is always, for the highest and greatest good of all, spirit, use me for the highest and greatest good of all. I trust in that and I don't know exactly what way, shape, or form I'm going to be of service yet. I know I have a lot of things that I've been working on and skills, and some of them that I'll share with you. So one of them is I'm almost done. I've been in this program called Dharma Coaching Institute where we're learning to help people discover their purpose and their passion and their step into their divine assignment in this incarnation. I'll be done with that in about 3 weeks. So I am a soon to be certified Dharma coach, which is very exciting. And my goal there is really just to provide sacred space for transformation and be a mentor and an ally and a guide um, for women in transformation or in transition, and really help them to feel safe, feel seen, feel heard, feel understood, and feel supported during this time of transition, whatever way that transition is showing up.
Do you have anything ready yet? Like in terms of if someone heard you speak and felt connected to what it was that you were saying and wanted to reach out to you, are you set up for that yet?
Yeah, they can connect with me on Instagram is probably best. And then you can click on my bio for my link tree and find out about all the things I'm doing. And my Instagram is at Soul Searcher Shan. And my coaching company is called Golden Light Codes, which I'm making the website right now. But you can find out about that on my Instagram as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing at the Shabbat, first of all,
Yeah.
and allowing me to see you and see myself in you. And
Mm.
you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you for having me. It's been such an honor. And now I'm like, I think we talked about this a little bit about me starting a podcast. I started it a few months back and again, didn't finish it, but you're giving me inspiration. And now I want to interview you on my podcast and get to know you and your story because it feels like this was all about me and I want to know more.
Well, that's a deal. I'm happy to come on your podcast.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Awesome.